Coming up next, Chris Dunlavey and Paul Sheehy of the MLR Washington, D.C. franchise. Brought to you by Friends of the British Council. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy here at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 in New York City. We are talking rugby, and we are talking American rugby. And in the studio with me is none other than Mr. Chris Dunlavey, and Mr. Paul Sheehy is calling in on the monitor. Hi, Paul.
How are you? How's everybody?
Good, good. And Chris, you good?
Doing great. Matt, Paul and I know are both big fans, so appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Well, thank you, and thanks for coming on. I know, you guys are the representatives of the Washington, D.C. Major League Rugby franchise, and this is very exciting. But it's also, there's a little sub-story, a little subplot. We got Rugby United New York up here uniting the clans, but you guys are clearly uniting the clans down in Washington, a Washington Irish guy and a Washington rugby guy.
You got it. I will say, Paul had a far more illustrious career than I've ever had, but I'm proud to be part of the biggest, one of the most prominent clubs in the U.S., and honored, though, to have overcome old rivalries to partner up with Paul and do the right thing for the D.C. area and our rugby community.
Yeah, and I think Chris played a lot longer than I did, so he wins that award. But I'm happy to. I first started practicing with the Washington Irish, so we've always had a kindred spirit in the Washington area, and I'm excited to be a part of this and looking forward to the next chapter here.
So, which one of you guys was involved in it first? In the MLR, I mean.
I think, in professional rugby in the U.S., Paul was, and I'll let him speak to that. But I got engaged in the MLR effort late in December this past year when your friend James Kennedy reached out with a very terse but direct email saying, "Hey, I'm rolling with this MLR thing, and I think I need some rivalries on the East Coast. You guys want to look in something down in D.C.?" And we decided we would.
And then you reached out to Paul, or he put you two in contact?
I knew that Paul had been involved in an earlier effort to take a look at the potential of Pro 14 in the U.S., so I reached out to him and found out that we both thought very positively about the business model that MLR was putting together, thought that their approach to building from the grassroots level up was the right way to make rugby viable in the United States and sustainable, and that's really what we care about most, is something that's going to be a lasting legacy for rugby in the future. So,
Paul, when he called you, did you stare at the phone and say this guy's crazy, or were you like, yeah, I like this idea?
Actually, I listened to James Kennedy on one of your shows, and then he called me shortly after that and said, "Hey, you really need to sync up with Chris. Are you still interested in professional rugby in the United States?" So we actually met at a event, I believe, Chris, at the South African Embassy before the kickoff to the South Africa-Wales test announcement. So it was fortuitous that we both happened to be there, and we met and talked a little bit about it. I got involved probably in 2016 looking at the Pro 14 and spent about 8 months really getting educated on Pro 14 and the U.S. market. And I've lived in the D.C. area for 30 years, played rugby here, and was really excited about that. But I think the Pro 14 made a good decision going to South Africa, and I made a good decision not getting involved with that in the D.C. area. We weren't ready for that. And when MLR, as I was watching it, I was going to take a little time and decide what I was going to do next. It really felt right. The scale felt right. It's an American enterprise, really bringing it up from the grassroots. The games that I've watched, I've been thoroughly impressed. I think Seattle sold out most of their games. So when Chris, when we got together, I was really excited about the potential that this had in the D.C. area. And the timing couldn't be better with the Wales-South Africa game. So,
all right. So what about your business plan?
Well, we've got the benefit of being in the D.C. market, which, aside from being one of the biggest media markets in the country and one of the best markets to put any kind of sports franchise, it's a terrific rugby community, a terrific rugby culture. There are more 190 clubs within our market area, over 7,500 active players today, thousands of executives and executive-level managers, both in private industry and the federal government and other places in the D.C. area. So a terrific rugby community to draw on to be our direct support. In addition to that, we've got an extraordinarily international population in D.C., which, not for nothing, is probably why there's a great rugby community there in the first place. But all of the embassies and expat communities from everywhere from the UK to the Pacific Islanders, extraordinary large group of people from rugby-loving countries in our market that we know we can draw on. So our intent, our business plan, is to focus very much on activating that rugby community through a grassroots effort of reaching out club by club, player by player, to encourage people to come out and support us. We intend for our club to be a center for celebrating that entire community. Everything from our website to our game presentation is going to be about celebrating all of the many great players and clubs within our community at the club level, the collegiate level, the high school level, and the youth level. And we really need to focus on building out that youth level, but we have terrific performers at every other level. And we really want to become the nexus of celebrating all that within the D.C. area.
We're all about celebrating here on Rugby Wrap-Up, specifically when it comes to rugby. And you talked about the community and the fans. What's the name of the team, guys?
Oh, we're going to have to wait. We can't tell you that yet. Oh. Come on, Matt.
Oh.
No, we're putting that out to the fans and letting them help us decide that.
Okay.
But it'll be a strong DC-centric name that I think will resonate with a lot of folks in the area.
I'm already thinking. I know Redskins is taking.
You can submit. Matt. You can submit a name. We'll let you submit a name also.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I'm going to scratch off Bullets and Redskins.
Excellent.
Right? Because
very smart first scratches to make. That's
or maybe
right.
Are we bringing Bullets back? Right?
I don't know.
No, probably not. Probably not. All right.
It was a good team, though. They were a good team. We liked them.
We got a couple of practical questions, but we're gonna take a quick break and come right back with Paul Sheehy and Chris Dunlavey right after this.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Been blind since I was 4. And I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste. And my beer's Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
Hey everybody, we're back at Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 here in New York City. We're back with Mr. Paul Sheehy and Mr. Chris Dunlavey of the Washington MLR franchise. And do you guys have a stadium?
No, but we are working on some very exciting possibilities. There are we are focused very much on being in a very accessible location. So we are focusing inside the DC Beltway in a Metro Rail accessible location. We have a small handful of existing venue partners we are talking with, but we are also pursuing the possibility of a rugby-specific venue to be newly created within the District of Columbia, and in very active talks about that right now. So we're real excited about that opportunity.
And is there any truth to the rumor that you'll be giving away a free car at every game?
A free car at every game? No, a free test drive. We'll do a free test drive.
Free test drive.
Since you bring that up, obviously I'm in the auto business, and after a wonderful career of rugby, chasing my dream, I had to get back and pay for everything. But we are located in the Mid-Atlantic area, and one of the things, we're a family business, so I'm one of the partners. My brother's CEO. He also played rugby, by the way, at Wharton. So we have a lot of strong rugby ties in our family.
He was a smarty pants. He played at Wharton.
He is. Well, that's why he's CEO, and I oversee all the used operations. But One of the things, Matt, is we found in our 23 locations, there was we're a community business. And in the world of Amazon, the community businesses are very important. We hire people from the community. We service vehicles in that community. And there's a rugby team, lo and behold, in almost every community. We're in Annapolis. Well, Navy is obviously a huge, rugby college there. And then we're in Fredericksburg, where University of Mary Washington, which just won the D1 AA championship. So we have a lot of youth teams, and we sponsor those. So I really found that rugby is a great partnership with our business. And I think we're going to build our platform for the MLR team off of that it's going to be a regionally based program. We're going to bring everybody in. They're now going to have something at the top of the pyramid that they can focus on and aspire to, and get the whole region. There's 9 million people living in the Washington, Baltimore area. And the one thing that's not talked about is the D1 athletes. This is a great high school area. The WCAC produces phenomenal athletes. A lot of them have played rugby, whether it's at St. John's, DeMatha, Gonzaga, Georgetown Prep. And I think we will be able to convert some of them. In fact, I know Chris and I have already gotten calls and emails from many of those folks that want to know when tryouts are. So I think that's our plan. It's going to be, we got to be sustainable, and it's got to be something that's that's going to last, a long time, and make sure that we have the buy-in from the community. But I think it's a real good plan.
Chris, what's your business background?
I started life as an architect, and for 25 years I've been running a project management firm, usually for large institutional projects. But the link here is we've done a fair amount of stadium and arena and ballpark construction, from the Major League, NFL, Major League Baseball level down to collegiate and minor league sports. So I've been on point for the venue discussions lately.
Okay, cool. Guys, a couple of practical questions for you. Number one, you talked about tryouts and getting players and stuff like that, and the wealth of players, but there's a bit of attrition going on in the MLR, right? You've got some injuries, you've got the odd red card or whatever. Are you worried about fielding enough guys throughout the course of a season?
Well, we certainly know that coming in as essentially an expansion team to begin with, we're going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of getting a quality talent pool together, and at least in the first couple of seasons, asserting ourselves as the kind of club we want to, representing the D.C. area. That said, I think that's a challenge across MLR, is going to be dealing with that attrition issue. The talent pool is only so deep nationwide, and rugby is a rough sport, and definitely finding out how to address that over the long term is going to be an issue for the league. I will say I've been extraordinarily impressed with the competitive balance in the league so far, and the quality of rugby play has been fantastic. It was all put together so organically. I think there were concerns about whether you would see an awful lot of lopsided scores or just crazy games happening. But it's been terrific rugby, very well run, some fantastic athletes out there, and just an impressive effort overall.
What position did you play?
I was a flanker.
Flanker. And Paul?
Fullback and wing.
So you got a pack player and a guy in the backs.
You got it.
From different teams, uniting rugby again, bringing peoples together, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this game does.
There you go.
Right? And you mentioned before University of Mary Washington. We got the jersey hanging on the wall here.
Oh, great.
Washington Irish. We got the jersey hanging here because Friends of the British Council has recognized the work of both teams. And
right.
It's just a building momentum thing that we got going on here, and it's great.
It really is. It's almost sad for everybody else that you have to be part of that rugby organization or community to know what a worldwide brotherhood and sisterhood it is, and the mutual respect that exists between everybody when you play. But it is truly a phenomenal thing, and we're hoping to extend that to more and more people.
All right. Well, Paul, you got final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm real excited about a New York-Washington rivalry. I grew up in an era where Washington traveled up to play Old Blue on a regular basis. It was just a great weekend for me and my friends to come up to New York City they'd come down and repay the favor. And it was really good rugby in the late 80s, early 90s. My sons have all been a part of the Xavier Gonzaga high school rivalry, which has had many of the same, just fantastic. And I think a lot of the coaches are from the era when I played, but just a great rivalry and some spectacular rugby to watch. So I think Rugby United New York and Washington will have a similar rivalry that the fans will come out for and will be very excited about on the East Coast.
To that end, for you guys, a little subtle move on my part is wearing my orange and blue New York Mets shirt because I know you're in Nationals country and the Rugby United colors as well. So I'm just going there. I'm throwing it down.
We got it. we see your colors, man.
Yeah, you can see I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm already a Rugby United New York fan because
we knew
of
that.
The color
we
scheme.
knew that. Hey, we're just happy. We're just happy you had us on. We want a DC segment, once a month with you. So.
Absolutely. And you guys, I don't know if you've been following, but usually when somebody comes on Rugby Wrap Up, their team does well the next week.
Excellent.
Okay.
You can Google
let's get a scrimmage next week.
We need a good week. Yeah.
All right, guys. On behalf of Mr. Chris Dunlavey and Mr. Paul Sheehy, I'm Matt McCarthy at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 for Rugby Wrap Up, signing off.